It started with a whisper. Earth had gone silent. No ships, no signals, no ambassadors. Just a void where humanity used to be. And when the Assembly sent fleets to investigate, they didn't find a war, they found a graveyard. One built from their own arrogance. What they never realized was that humans weren't leaving in fear. They were leaving to prepare. They called it a routine assembly session. Commander Jace Rourke called it a farce. He stood in silence on the polished obsidian floor of the Grand Chamber of Orbitus Prime, surrounded by 400 species arguing in overlapping frequencies. Some shouted in pheromones, others blinked colors, some just screamed. Rourke just watched. The human delegation was the smallest. One man. No aides. No security. Just a slim black case at his side and eyes like steel. They hadn't invited him to speak. No one ever did. But they knew he listened. And that made them nervous. The Zenthri ambassador leaned forward, dripping a translucent oil from her gills. Earth continues to interfere with neutral system protocols. Human drones were spotted in unaligned zones. Again. Rourke didn't flinch. He didn't blink. He waited. The accusation hung in the air. Another delegate, a Valari noble whose species viewed emotion as disease, spoke with a dry rustle. We must address Earth's overreach. They do not comply with redistribution agreements. Their technology remains incompatible, even after 3 decades of adaptation protocols. Murmurs followed. Everyone had something to say about Earth. Parasites. Outsiders. Aggressors. The youngest member of the Assembly, yet the one whose tech powered half their systems. And still, they never gave Earth a seat at the high strategy table. Jace cleared his throat. That silenced the room more effectively than any alarm ever had. He took one step forward and placed the black case gently on the podium. His voice came quiet, without tremor, and cut through the chamber like a laser. Earth has heard your concerns. And Earth has made a decision. The air changed. Even the scent-based delegates recoiled. Jace opened the case. Inside was a cube, matte gray, humming with embedded light. No one recognized the design. That was the point. This is a quantum relay burst device. It transmits a single message through all registered diplomatic channels within a 20 light-year radius. It is synced to Earth's core protocol vault. The message is preloaded. The Grok's representative made a choking sound. You come to threaten us with a weapon? It's not a weapon, Jace said. It's a goodbye. He pressed the activation key. All at once, every delegate's personal translator unit chirped alive. The same message echoed, in every language, in every mind. This is Earth. Effective immediately, we withdraw from the Galactic Assembly. All diplomatic, economic, and defense agreements are terminated. Do not contact us. Do not follow. This is not a negotiation. Silence. 1 beat. 2. Then chaos. Delegates screamed, visually, audibly, chemically. Some demanded to know if it was a bluff. Others wanted military sanctions. Most demanded immediate reconnection to Earth's commerce networks. Rourke just stood there, eyes on no one, heart steady. An insectoid delegate screeched. You can't just leave! Jace finally looked up. We just did. You're sabotaging us. Our systems rely on your. You built your house with stolen bricks and now cried because we took back the mortar. That's not sabotage. That's justice. The chamber erupted again. Above the noise, a single voice broke through, calm, ancient, and utterly cold. It belonged to the Celadrin Chancellor, whose species remembered sons dying. Why now, human? Jace paused. This was the only question he expected. For 73 years, Earth cooperated. We gave you power regulators, planetary shields, fusion chains. We gave you language compatibility. We gave you AI that you dressed up in your own insignias and pretended were yours. In return, you gave us trade restrictions, cultural mockery, assassination attempts, and seats at the children's table. He took a slow breath. We waited. We learned. And we built. In secret. For a day when we would stop being useful and become a threat. Someone tried to override the relay device. It sparked and rejected all external signals. Jace didn't even glance at it. You thought we needed your approval. You thought Earth was trying to belong. We weren't. He stepped back from the podium. We were mapping. Another delegate, reptilian and shaking, hissed. If you cut ties, you forfeit protection. The galaxy is dangerous. You won't survive. Jace gave a half smile. You think we're retreating? That's your first mistake. We're not hiding. We're hardening. You'll face pirate hordes, economic ruin, isolation. We've seen worse. We are worse. Before anyone could respond, the device pulsed once more, transmitting a final encrypted signal to Earth. It was the last message the assembly would ever receive. Jace picked up the case and turned. No guards stopped him. No voices called him back. Just hundreds of delegates realizing that their entire galactic network had been quietly bound together by human threads, threads they never noticed until they were already cut. As Jace walked out of the chamber, one ambassador whispered to another in sheer panic. What do we do now? The reply came low and honest. Pray they don't come back. Panic didn't come all at once. It seeped in, like coolant through a cracked hull, slow, silent, then catastrophic. The Assembly's emergency communications lit up within hours of Earth's departure. Trade hubs blinked offline. Transport lanes collapsed into disarray. The quantum core stabilizers Earth had generously standardized decades ago suddenly ceased responding to alien maintenance protocols. It wasn't sabotage. It was dependency. And Earth had simply pulled the plug. Valari ports shut down first. Their entire currency was backed by Earth's orbital market indexes. Within 2 days, their central banks were defaulting. The Telari swarm lost 5 moons when their cooling stations failed. The Chrysian patrol fleet turned cannibal when their predictive targeting AIs, coded by Terran engineers, stopped receiving updates. And the worst part? There was no response. No answer from Earth. Not even silence. Just absence. The assembly scrambled. The communication core at Thore 6 issued an open transmission. Humanity's withdrawal has triggered cascading system failures. All member states are urged to submit emergency impact assessments. No assessments came. Because everyone was trying to survive. A week passed. Then 2. The Grox Confederacy, once a dominant naval force, reported 37 space lanes under pirate control. Earth's automated border patrols had apparently been handling that threat without acknowledgement. Now? Chaos. Behind closed doors, whispers sharpened into dread. Did they plan this? Were we always this vulnerable? Did we misunderstand everything about humans? Commander Jace Rourke hadn't been seen since he walked out of the assembly chamber. But someone had seen him. An intercepted message surfaced, decrypted by a desperate hacktivist on a moon orbiting Zidon Prime. It was a voice log. Rourke's voice. We warned them. Every time they sent us into the back rooms. Every time they laughed at us behind translator filters. They thought diplomacy was Earth's weakness. It was our observation phase. We gave them tools not to make friends, but to measure how they used them. And they failed. The message ended with coordinates. Deep edge of the Sol system. Forbidden territory now. But curiosity often overrides fear, especially when empires begin to crumble. The Assembly formed an investigative fleet, 12 ships from 6 member races, equipped with diplomatic transceivers and stealth technology. Their objective wasn't war. It was re-establishing contact. Rebuilding trust. And maybe, just maybe, convincing Earth to come back. The fleet reached Pluto's edge. The Sol Gate was gone, collapsed, melted, or hidden. Nobody knew. As they approached the heliosphere, sensors picked up anomalies. Energy distortions. Gravitational irregularities. Weapon signatures so dense they looked like atmospheric storms. Then they saw it. Not a ship. A wall. A planetary-scale construct encircling Sol like a mechanical noose. layered in shifting alloys and shielded with energy frequencies that didn't exist on any known chart. A single message pulsed from its surface, repeating on a closed loop in every known dialect. Sol is sealed. Do not approach. The Valari captain laughed. A bluff. Their technology cannot be this advanced. Earth's history is barely 12 centuries in deep space. The fleet advanced. 10 minutes later, it was gone. No distress signal. No wreckage. Just a burst of white noise that fried the eardrums of every listener across 7 nearby systems. The assembly tried to censor the event, calling it a miscommunication in a restricted region. But fear doesn't obey protocol. It spreads. Even the more arrogant species, the ones who once dismissed humans as emotional, fragile, irrational, began reviewing their treaties, searching for backdoors. They found none. Earth had complied perfectly, lawfully, quietly, while embedding itself into the very bones of interstellar civilization. And then they just walked away. Back at the Assembly's crisis table, representatives shouted over one another. Threats turned into accusations. Accusations became blame. Until the Valari delegates slammed the table and said, "Enough. Earth is dangerous. We must treat this as a hostile act." "Hostile?" barked the Zayarianva. "They haven't fired a single shot." "Because they didn't need to," came a dry voice from the shadows. Rourke's voice. The feed stuttered, then sharpened. Jay stood in a dark room, hands clasped behind his back, wearing no insignia. Just a plain black uniform with no flag. "You want to understand what happened? Fine," he said. "For decades, Earth tried to adapt to the Assembly. We adopted your language networks. Modified our culture to respect your rituals. We even let you dissect our markets. And what did we get in return?" He paused. "You took our tech. You took our soldiers. You took our trust. And you laughed while doing it." The room froze. "But while you were taking, we were building. Every failed negotiation became data. Every insult recorded. Every vote against us? Logged. And we realized, this wasn't a community. It was a syndicate. Built not on unity, but fear of change." Jay stepped forward. "You feared humans because we reminded you of yourselves. That's why you kept us close but powerless. Until now." He lifted a small device and tapped it once. A star map appeared behind him, systems flickering red one by one. Earth's influence zones. And now? Blacked out. "We've quarantined our tech. Cut the lines. Taken back what's ours. You relied on our systems, and now you're learning what happens when support is mistaken for submission." The Valari delegate growled. "If this is blackmail, we don't negotiate with terrorists." Rourke smiled. "This isn't blackmail. It's evacuation." "Evacuation?" "We're not retaliating. We're retreating. Not because we're scared. Because we saw something you didn't." He leaned in closer, eyes cold and level. "There's something coming. From beyond mapped space. We detected it years ago. And we knew, when it arrives, your diplomacy won't matter. Your fleets won't matter. Your bureaucracy definitely won't matter." He stepped back. "So we decided to prepare." Silence again. Not a single delegate spoke. "We gave you a chance to join us. To evolve with us. But you chose power over partnership. So now we'll face the dark alone." The feed cut. No signal followed. Just static. And in that moment, the Assembly realized Earth wasn't turning its back. It was walking ahead. The last signal from the Peacekeeper Armada came as a broken fragment, 3 words, cut by static. They knew everything. Then silence. The Assembly issued a blackout order, trying to suppress the broadcast. But fear doesn't obey censors. News leaked, systems buzzed, and panic metastasized across 1,000 sectors. What could Earth possibly know that reduced the galaxy's finest fleet to vapor? That's when Jace Rourke returned. No warning. No entourage. Just a signal, hard-coded, Assembly standard, unmistakable. It opened on the High Council floor, uninvited. He stood in what looked like an ancient Terran bunker. The concrete walls and rusted support beams behind him made him seem smaller, more human. But his eyes didn't blink. "You sent ships," he said. "We noticed." The Valari chairman stood up immediately. "Explain yourself, human." "Our fleet." "Your fleet broke a line we drew for your own safety," Jace interrupted. "They crossed into Sol without consent." We responded. "That wasn't a line. It was a threat." "No," he said. "It was a boundary. You didn't respect it. That made it war." The Zentari representative, her voice a modulated hiss, leaned forward. "What did you do to them?" Jace answered without flinching. "We taught them what it means to approach Earth uninvited." An image flickered to life behind him, the fleet, moments before impact. A sphere surrounded by translucent distortions, like ripples in a pond. Then white light. Then nothing. They were neutralized before crossing Neptune's orbit. We used nonlinear gravity distorters. No suffering. No mess. The Grok's ambassador slammed a clawed fist onto the table. "You butchered peace envoys." "They weren't peaceful," Jace replied calmly. "They came armed. With stealth drives, targeting systems, subspace jammers. We monitored them the moment they entered the heliopause." "You're playing God," someone said. "No. We're playing defense. Something you abandoned centuries ago." The room fell into stunned silence. Jace waited, letting the moment breathe. "Earth didn't leave the assembly on a whim," he continued. "We left because your systems were built on pretense. On hierarchy disguised as cooperation. On control. You thought we were naive for resisting. We weren't resisting. We were observing. Cataloging every vote, every betrayal, every deal made behind closed doors." The Celadrin Chancellor, whose species had always favored neutrality, spoke slowly. "What is your endgame, Commander?" Jace narrowed his gaze. "Survival. You think we're a threat? I think you're a distraction. And in our calculations, distractions are liabilities." He tapped a panel. Another image replaced the fleet footage, deep space scans. Distorted signatures. Patterns that resembled nothing known. Not organic. Not mechanical. Something in between. And moving. Slowly. Deliberately. "This was detected 60 light-years beyond known space," he said. "We call it the tide." The council stared at the display, silent again. "We sent unmanned probes. All lost. We sent a quantum mirror buoy. What returned was so scrambled, it melted our decryption arrays. But we heard one thing. A single transmission buried in radiation." He paused. "Harvest cycle begins." A ripple of unease moved through the chamber. "You thought we left because we were angry." "No. We left because we needed to be ready. And you, every one of you, refused to listen. You should have told us. You wouldn't have believed us," Jace said. "You would have argued. Delayed. Debated. And in the process, you would have leaked everything. You're not built for existential threat response. You're built for consensus." The Valari chairman tried to reassert authority. "We demand cooperation. This tide affects us all." Jace's tone dropped to near whisper. "You don't get to demand anything. Not anymore. We are still the assembly." "You were," he said. "Now you're a cautionary tale." He didn't smile. He didn't raise his voice. But the words echoed like gunfire. "Earth has moved beyond diplomacy. We've sealed our borders. Purged foreign code from our systems. Developed autonomous fleets not bound by your treaties. And we've begun constructing shield worlds. Artificial sanctuaries, deep void stations, fallback colonies. We didn't retreat. We recalibrated. But your allies were absorbed," Jace said. "Willingly. Some realized the truth before we did. Others saw what's coming. We've taken them in. The rest will face what's coming without us. What happens to us?" The Zenthari delegate asked, almost whispering now. You survive, he said. Or you don't. But you'll do it without our help. The chamber darkened for a second as the connection faltered, then returned. I didn't come here to negotiate, Jace said. I came to deliver this. He lifted a small cylinder, silver, pulsing with faint light. This device contains every defense algorithm, energy shield configuration, and stealth protocol we deployed to eliminate your fleet. You'll find them terrifying, efficient, and decades ahead of your current models. The chamber buzzed. Eyes widened. This is not a gift, he added. It's a message. He placed it on a table. Study it. Learn from it. And understand, this was a warning strike. We could have erased your systems entirely. We didn't. Why not? Because war isn't our goal. Survival is. But the next mistake will be treated as betrayal. He reached for the transmitter, ready to cut the feed. But paused, just long enough. And one more thing. That signal, the one we heard from the tide? It wasn't meant for us. He met their eyes. Unblinking. It was a reply. Then the signal died. They didn't summon him this time. He arrived anyway. Without ceremony, without preamble, without any escort or authorization code, Commander Jace Rourke walked back into the Assembly's Grand Hall through a secure channel that should have been disabled. His presence triggered 37 security protocols, none of which reacted. Earth's fingerprints, it seemed, had never been fully removed. His image shimmered to life in the center of the chamber just as the Council was finalizing a motion to declare Earth a Class 4 rogue entity. The motion was left hanging mid-vote as silence settled over the delegates. Some leaned forward. Others froze. All waited. You're still trying to categorize us, Jace said. Still filing declarations while your systems collapse. I would admire the consistency if it weren't so tragically suicidal. The Valari envoy stood first. You had no right to interfere with the Armada. You committed an act of war. No, Jace replied. You sent warships across a red line. I made sure you didn't repeat the mistake. You massacred an entire diplomatic fleet. Do not insult me by pretending it was diplomatic, he said. Your fleet ran silent, armed, and loaded with malware payloads. You called it peacekeeping. I call it what it was, attempted invasion. You could have warned us. I did. You called it a tantrum. The Davari representative clicked his mandibles. We should have dismantled your systems years ago. You tried. You failed. And now you're realizing the difference between tolerating us and depending on us. Jace turned slightly, scanning the chamber. You treated Earth like a utility. Something you could plug in when convenient, and cut out when we became inconvenient. But what you didn't understand, what you never grasped, is that we watched everything. The holographic feed shifted. Records streamed behind him, audio snippets, assembly vote logs, encrypted communications. Footage showed Earth being denied security rights, trade protections, defense cooperation. Snide jokes from closed councils, veiled threats, shared glances when human engineers presented breakthroughs. Do you know how many times we were laughed at? He asked. Do you know how often your intelligence bureaus dismissed us as emotionally unstable? Primitive? Disposable? He stepped closer, the transmission perfectly calibrated for intensity. You never thought to ask why we never retaliated. Why we never lashed out. You assumed restraint was weakness. It wasn't. It was study. Every treaty you broke, every backdoor code you inserted, every virus you embedded in our systems, we recorded, dissected, and repurposed it. A ripple of unease spread through the chamber. We built a mirror, not a machine. Every one of your secrets reflected back at you. That's why you don't understand how we moved so fast, how we sealed our borders in hours, how we crippled your fleets before they fired a shot. You gave us the blueprint. The Ilari High Warlord leaned in. Then why return now? What do you want, Rourke? Revenge? Compliance? I want you to understand what's coming. A long pause. Jace lifted a small spherical node and activated it. A new projection spread across the chamber, a black void of stars, overlaid with vector paths. A slow ripple, moving from beyond the galactic boundary, folding subspace like cloth. At the center of the ripple, nothing. A void that consumed every scan, every signal. We called it the tide, Jace said. We've been monitoring it for 15 years. We lost probes. We lost colonies. The ones that returned came back wrong. The projection changed again, an image of a mining facility orbiting a red dwarf. Twisted wreckage. Signals looping endlessly. A human voice repeating a single phrase. They're not machines. Another delegate whispered. This is why you left. No, Jace said. This is why we stopped pretending we were one of you. He tapped again. The image dissolved into pure silence. Then a message. A phrase scrawled in pulses of radiation. They know you're unready. Jace's voice was low now. It wasn't just a detection. It was a statement. Directed. Timed. Meant for us, or perhaps for whoever had the intelligence to decode it. The Valari rose again. And you think hiding gives you an advantage? Hiding? Jace almost laughed. We're not hiding. We're preparing. We've built countermeasures. Shielded systems. Firebreak colonies. Every human alliance species has been granted sanctuary. Those who refused did so by choice. The Celadrin Chancellor's voice returned, weary. Then why come back at all? To offer a single chance. A quiet murmur echoed. Jace leaned in. We have a secondary array. One capable of shielding 500 habitable systems. It won't stop the tide, but it will delay it long enough to give your civilizations a chance to adapt. But there's a condition. What condition? You cease all attempts to breach Sol space. No espionage, no probes, no diplomacy. You acknowledge Earth as sovereign and untouchable. In exchange, we grant you access to our early warning systems and protection grid architecture. Someone hissed. That's extortion. No, he replied sharply. That's evolution. You wanted to keep humanity on a leash. Now we hold the gate, and the dogs are already barking at your door. One final silence fell. Rourke looked around one last time. We won't force your hand. You're free to decline. But remember, if the tide reaches you before you decide, we won't reroute to help. The projection began to fade. And if any ship enters our borders again, we'll assume you made your choice. Then he was gone. 3 weeks passed. Not a single ship crossed into Sol. Not a single signal breached the Terran firewall. The assembly, fractured and humiliated, had complied. Not because of diplomacy. Because of fear. Internal debates exploded. Some called for retaliation, others for unconditional surrender. None reached a resolution. Half the member states couldn't stabilize their own infrastructure. The Terran vacuum had created a ripple collapse, and no one was able to fill the space they left behind. Power grids were crashing. Trade routes had frozen. Refugees from the outer systems swarmed inner colonies, terrified of the thing Earth had named the tide. But Earth remained silent. Jace Rourke did not speak again. No envelope followed. No statement clarified the ultimatum. Just the gravity of it, constant, immovable, cold. Then, just as the panic began to settle into a dull, resigned chaos, the first artifact appeared. Not from Earth. It wasn't transmitted. It arrived, a shard of a listening buoy, scraped raw by something unknown. No data recovered, no signal left. Only deep scarring and a slow pulse of decaying radiation that burned out 3 separate containment labs before it was jettisoned into a star. An emergency council was called, broadcast across every assembly channel. Every delegate, regardless of species, attended. This time, there was no argument. No shouting. No political games. Just fear. They replayed the last recorded Earth signal. Jace's voice echoed through the hall like a ghost walking on steel. We'll face the dark alone. And the silence afterward rang louder than any alarm. The Celadrin Chancellor stood slowly. We've waited too long. We cannot withstand this alone. No one disagreed. Not even the Valari. But no one volunteered a solution. Then, unexpectedly, a message arrived. Not from Earth. From one of its outer colonies. A minor Terran-aligned research station that had refused to comply with Rourke's order to return and had gone dark since the Armada incident. Its signal was patchy, warped by distance and interference. A single human scientist, face pale and strained, stared into the lens. They're inside the distortion now. We lost half our station in minutes. Not from attack. From absence. The walls just ceased. People disappeared mid-sentence. No energy readings. No chemical trace. Just erasure. He paused, choking on the next words. I don't think they're here to kill us. I think they're here to override us. The feed died. The assembly reeled. Systems across the sector initiated partial evacuations. Gates began closing one by one, isolating hundreds of planets. Panic returned in waves, heavier this time, no longer political, existential. And Earth remained silent. Until it didn't. Another signal appeared. Encrypted. Terran frequency. Authenticated. This time, not from Jace. It came from an unknown protocol, tagged only as ORPQS. It spoke without image, without emotion. This message is directed to the Assembly. We have observed the pattern progression of the tide. Current simulations estimate total galactic compromise in 47 standard years. A low hum underlined every word, almost subliminal. We are deploying the first phase of Project Aegis. Phase 1 includes full atmospheric shielding for 6 border systems. Installation will occur without discussion. Refusal is not permitted. A pause. You have mistaken Earth's silence for pride. You have mistaken our withdrawal for superiority. You are mistaken. Then the tone shifted. We do not hate you. We are simply no longer structured to save you at the cost of ourselves. The message pulsed once, then ended. A few hours later, observers reported black monoliths appearing over the skies of 6 different planets, unmanned, rotating, absorbing atmospheric data, initiating restructuring of magnetic fields and ion shields. No weapon signatures. No radiation. Just purpose. Earth was building walls. Not just around itself, around those who mattered. Only systems aligned with Earth, even unofficially, received them. The rest were ignored. The message had been clear. It wasn't punishment. It was efficiency. The Grox Confederacy, desperate, attempted to imitate the monolith signal architecture using a jury-rigged prototype based on stolen Terran blueprints. It backfired. Their station collapsed into quantum distortion within seconds. No pieces remained. A week passed. Then 2. The Assembly, once the center of galactic governance, became a relay station for survival updates. Then came the worst news yet. The farthest listening post in the Perseid belt picked up something unexpected. A return signal. It wasn't from the tide. It was from Earth. Jace Rourke. He didn't smile. He didn't scold. He didn't gloat. He looked tired. To those who listened, thank you. To those who resisted, this is not the moment to argue. We are deploying Phase 2. He looked down, as if reading something off-screen. You don't need to believe in us. You only need to stay out of the way. He looked up once more. But understand this. If your next move is to exploit our efforts, to interfere, to manipulate, don't. He leaned closer. We built the shield. We can also decide where it ends. Then his image vanished again. And this time, the Assembly didn't speak. They just listened. Finally,